long time no see. Okay, so you may notice something a little bit different about me. I did it. I finally got my septum pierced. I've been wanting to get it done for quite some time, and you guys know I've had my fake ones that sometimes I do little photo shoots with, and I didn't know if I wanted to fully commit to it. And then I sat down and I thought about it. I was like, you know what? The cool thing about the septum piercing is you can't see the scar later on down the line. Unlike, you know, my little Monroe piercing here, I will be able to see the scar when I take that one out, which, by the way, can you believe I've had this piercing for like 7 years? I can't believe it's been that long. So yeah, I went and got my septum pierced. So in this video, I'm gonna kind of tell you guys my experience, tips, advice, things like that that I can give you from my personal experience with it. So if you've been someone who's been kind of contemplating it, I'm gonna give you my runaround, pros, cons, etc. And then don't let me determine whether or not you go and get a piercing though. Take your time to research, evaluate, and keep in mind that everyone has a completely and totally different experience. And please, 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 for whatever reason, whatever piercing it is that you are getting or you are doing, do not use a dang piercing gun. Go to a professional. Go to a professional piercing shop and get it done professionally. You will avoid so much drama, so much heartache, so much pain, so much agony, so much stress by just going, paying the few extra bucks and getting it done professionally. So for starters, when I'm about to get a piercing, I personally like to pop a couple ibuprofen before my appointment, just to aid with any additional pain or discomfort or swelling, things like that. So I do pop a couple of those right before my appointment so that it's kind of set in and in my system right before I get pierced, and then a little bit later on, because no matter what you get pierced, where you get pierced, you're gonna have some swelling. So that leads me to the next thing is my piercer. Oh my gosh, she's amazing. I love her so much. She gave me a few options. Now keep in mind this may vary depending on location and your personal piercer and their beliefs and things like that. But for me, she gave me a couple options. She let me choose between a horseshoe shape, which is the one that I have right now with the 2 balls, or a solid ring. I could have picked just like a full like infinity ring. And then she also gave me the choice, because I did pick horseshoe, she gave me the choice of size. So one was 10mm and I think the other was 8mm. And she kind of showed me an example of how far one would sit on my nose and how like tucked up the other one would sit. I opted for the bigger one. So the one that I have in my nose right now is a 10mm diameter. I chose that because a swelling. My lip, when I first got my lip pierced, it was super swollen for like a week or two. That was the easiest piercing I had ever experienced, but it was very swollen. So I swell very easily when I get piercings, and when I swell, it's a lot. So I opted for the bigger horseshoe just because I knew my body from experience, and I knew that that would probably be the better option for me. However, I did also purchase the smaller horseshoe. So once this is healed up just a little bit more, I've had this for about 2 weeks now, and once this is healed up a little bit more, I'm gonna go back into the piercing shop and I'm gonna have her switch them out for me. I think she said it's like a $5 charge or whatever for them to professionally swap out the jewelry for you. And I definitely recommend doing that. I didn't have that done with my nip nops, and I kind of wish I did, because it was a very excruciating experience. Regardless, those take a lot longer to heal than a septum does or a lip does. So I don't know, regardless what you're getting pierced, I highly recommend going in once it's healed up a little bit and letting them change out your jewelry for you. It just makes it a lot easier on you, and it's less stressful because they have the proper tools for things to like tighten the balls and the ends and everything like that. It's so much easier and smoother that way, so I highly recommend that. As far as pain goes, I'm gonna talk about my experience, and then we'll talk kind of about pain pain and aftercare, and then how the pain is through the aftercare and things like that. So keep in mind, first and foremost, that pain varies from person to person, and your pain tolerance may be completely different to someone else's. I went in there and I signed my life away on the little papers, and I gave them my ID so they could photocopy it or whatever. And then I sat in a little chair, and like I said, my piercer gave me the options. I picked my options. She made me aware that sometime before she even sterilized anything, she said, now keep in mind that sometimes these piercings come out crooked the first time that they are done. And I knew this based on all of the research I had done before going into it, because whenever I'm gonna get a new piercing or a tattoo in a specific spot, I always research because I wanna go into it knowing as much as possible. So she sat me down and she said, okay, so what I'm gonna do is this, 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 and this. And she basically just explained how she was gonna put it in and then slide the jewelry in and then tighten up the balls, whatever. We were gonna look at it in the mirror. And then she said there is a chance that it could come out crooked, meaning if it sits in your nose, it could sit a little bit crooked this way or this way. So like, you'll really notice it if you like tilt your head back. You can kind of see if one side of the piercing sits a little bit lower than the other. I didn't notice this until later on, but I do have one nostril that is larger than the other. So it's kind of like an optical illusion when you look at it like this, because it does look like this side is sitting back further than the other side. But it's actually straight. Now, here's the thing, is the first time she pierced it, it was not straight. So she grabbed two little Q-tips on both sides and she kind of felt around in my nose a little bit to kind of see where the nice fleshy spot was, because there is a little patch. If you stick your two fingers up your nose in your little septum area right here, you can feel your hard cartilage, which feels kind of like the top of your ear up here, like in your nose. You can kind of like move it back and forth. And then right underneath of that, if you pull your nose down just a little bit and wiggle it, there's that nice fleshy patch that isn't the hard cartilage, and that goes all the way up into closer to the point of your nose. Now, for years, I was under the impression that you get your cartilage pierced in your nose for the septum, but they actually pierce it more towards the front, if you can see. And it's in that nice little fleshy spot. So if they can hit your sweet spot, that little fleshy spot that is not your hard cartilage, your healing process is gonna go so much smoother and so much nicer, and it's gonna heal so much faster. Now, if they do hit the cartilage, it's gonna be more painful. It will take longer to heal. It's probably gonna swell some extra. It might bleed some extra. And it's gonna be a nuisance more than anything probably. So like I said, go to a professional, go to someone who's used to piercing septums on a daily basis, because they know what they're doing, and you're less likely to walk out of there with A, it being crooked, or B, it going through your cartilage and hurting like a biznatch. The first time she did it, it came out crooked, and she looked at me and she said, okay, look at this, tell me if it's crooked. So I grabbed the mirror, I looked at it, and I go, oh my God, that's so crooked. Because this side was sitting back way further than it is now. Like, it was super, super crooked. And regardless, nobody's gonna be looking at me like this, but you could tell it was crooked from just looking at it from the front. And Alan went with me, and I looked at him and I said, can you tell that it's crooked? And he goes, I mean, unless you're right up on it, you can't tell. Here's the thing. If it comes out crooked and you don't like it, same with a tattoo stencil. If it's just like an inch off or like a centimeter off of the position that you want it in, make them redo it. That's their job. That is what they are there for. They are professionals. They're there to listen to you, because with a tattoo, it's going to be on your body forever. You want it to be in the exact perfect place that you feel comfortable with it in. And the same goes with piercings. If you get it pierced right there on the spot and you don't like the placement of it, you don't like the position of it, have them redo it. She sat there and she said, okay, you have two options. Number one, you can take it out right now and I can try to re-pierce it again right here, right now. Or number two, you can take the jewelry out, let it heal for 2 weeks, come back in again, we'll re-pierce it again. But I can't promise you either way that it's gonna come out straight again. She was telling me when I was getting mine done that there was a girl who went in there and she had hers done 3 times, and every time she had it done, it was still crooked. So keep in mind that that is a possibility. Now for me, I got lucky. I told her, do it right now. Like, I don't want to have to come back here in 2 weeks. I already have been stabbed with the needle. I know what it feels like. Now, the actual process of the needle going through is not super painful. It feels like a piercing. If you've ever had a piercing before, for me, I have a really high pain tolerance when it comes to tattoos and piercings. And since I've had my nip-nops done, nothing else can compare to that. And I will let you know that depending on what part of your nose you're getting pierced, if you're getting your septum pierced, it's gonna hit a nerve right in here, and you will tear up a little bit. Your eyes will well. Some people experience it a little bit more strong than others. For me, my eyes just like welled up. They didn't actually like stream tears. So if you plan on wearing a little bit of makeup, wear waterproof mascara. Pro tip. If you're getting like a stud on this side, this eye will water. If stud on this side, this eye will water. I advise not wearing any like face makeup in that area. And that goes with any piercing. Don't ever wear makeup in a spot where you're planning on getting pierced that day. It's just kind of common sense, but I did want to put that in here just in case. So yes, she redid it. She did the second go through, and the first time she did it, I barely bled at all. She's like, wow, you're barely bleeding at all. That's crazy. And then the second time she did it, I could feel the blood. And I literally said, my words were, oh, that one feels a lot more wet. She goes, it is. And so it was a little bit more bloody. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't just like blood rushing out of my nose or anything like that. But keep in mind that you might bleed. That is a thing. And some people will bleed more than others. Some people won't bleed at all. It just all depends on your own personal body. And again, your piercer, your experience, where you're pierced, etc. And then she handed me the mirror and I said, oh yeah, that looks much better. So, I did have it done the second time right then and there. So I think that's why it's still a little bit tender after the 2-week mark, because usually about 2 to 4 weeks is the sweet spot of it starting to be not really painful anymore. Like the initial throbbing, the initial pain, it kind of goes away. Mine, I didn't really have a throbbing experience. It's just been kind of tender to the touch right here on the tip of my nose. And again, I think that's just because I did have it pierced twice back to back in the same sitting. So that's probably why I might have a little bit extra buildup scar tissue there, just because it was kind of put under a little bit of stress and trauma. I wasn't expecting to get pierced twice in the same sitting. So just expect that. That is a possibility. My piercer did give me that option. Keep in mind that depending on who you go to, just communicate with them prior and be like, hey, what are my options if it comes out crooked? And as far as aftercare goes, aftercare is so simple. For me personally, again, people have their different aftercare routines, but for me personally, with my piercer, she recommends soaking in warm distilled water twice a day, and each time after you do that, clean all the crusties off with Q-tips and then follow up with a saline spray. So like the saline wound washes, there are saline aftercare sprays. I preferred using one end of the Q-tip per side. So I would use one end here and then I'd flip it over and use the other end on the other side, just so there wasn't any weird like cross contamination. I don't think it really matters because it's like the same piercing spot, but that's what I preferred to do. That's what I did, just to be like extra cautious about things. As far as soaking it, I know it's kind of hard to do that. Some people will take a shot glass filled with the warm distilled water. Please do not use tap. Oh my gosh, do not ever use tap water on your piercings in the healing process. Some people will take a shot glass and just kind of set their nose in it like this for like 5 minutes or less. For me personally, what she told me to do is just bunch up a couple paper towels, dunk them in the water, and so they're soaked, and then stick them up my nose, and then I can kind of walk around and do whatever I want for the 5 minutes that they're kind of like soaking. It was really nice, the convenience to just shove a couple paper towels up my nose and then go about my business. I could go cook or paint my toenails or play with my puppy or whatever I wanted to do. It was just really easy that way. And then once I was done soaking, I just take those out. I take a Q-tip and I would dunk it in the distilled water as well. And then I would just kind of clean it, dunk the opposite end, clean the other side, get all the little crusties off, and then follow up with that saline spray like I said before. And you just do that twice a day. I do mine in the morning and at night, and I have not had any problems with it yet. One of the main questions that I found when I was researching things, and one question that I had myself, was when it is in the horseshoe shape, one of the most common things about this piercing is being able to flip it up into your nose and tuck it in there. So when you like go to church or go to a family function, or you're doing a photo shoot, or whatever the case may be, or even work, you can tuck it up in your nose and no one will even know you have the piercing. That is one of the most positive things of a septum piercing, other than it's very simple to take care of. The aftercare is amazing and very smooth and very easy. But it's the fact that you can easily hide it. And again, there's gonna be no scar visible later on when you do decide to take it out. So I will say that I did ask my piercer when I went in, because I have heard mixed reviews and mixed opinions on whether or not you should flip your piercing up in the healing process. Now, she told me that as long as you are cleaning it in between flip up and flip downs, you're safe to flip it up and down. But don't be like flipping it up and down and moving it all around and going all crazy when the crusties haven't been cleaned off, when the scabs haven't been cleaned off. And she said try to keep flipping it up to a minimum. If you have to keep it up like every day to go to work, keep it flipped up, let it heal flipped up. For me personally, I've opted to not flip it up at all. For me, I don't know. I personally recommend keeping it flipped down for the initial, like at least 1 to 2 months, just to get that initial healing session out of the way. I think it's all about what you feel comfortable with. Ask your piercer when you go, talk to them. They are the professional. They know what they're talking about. I think that is it. I did also want to mention here, I totally forgot to talk about this, but during day 2, day 3, day 4, about those initial days during the healing process, the itchiness was real. I experienced a ton of itch, and in order to kind of help that just a little bit, I did some warm distilled water soaks in a shot glass with a little bit of sea salt, and make sure the salt is completely and totally dissolved in the warm water prior to doing this. But I just kind of like sat there with it in there for maybe like a couple of minutes, and that really did help subside that itchiness temporarily. And now the itching has been completely subsided, but just wanted to give you guys that little heads up because it was very annoying. I recommend, if you've been contemplating a septum piercing, go get it, because the worst that could happen is that, you know, it comes out crooked or it's super painful and you have to take it out, in which case nobody's going to see the scar anyway. And the only person who will know that it was ever done is you and your piercer, unless you take someone else with you to go get it done, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it's up to you. It's completely up to you. I'm not here to tell you, yes, go get it done, go do it right now, being like demanding or anything. But I just wanted to share my personal experience and kind of give you guys a little walkthrough of what to expect, what could happen, what's a possibility, because I am kind of a unique case in the fact that I had it pierced twice back to back. A lot of people will opt to let it heal and go back in later, so it's a cleaner hole. I don't know how to explain that, but yeah, you catch my drift, you get what I'm saying. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and hop off of here. I hope this video was informative and helpful for you guys, and like I said, I have a new and exciting video coming out super soon, so stay tuned for that. I'm gonna be getting a new pet. I have kind of disclosed what it was or what it is on a couple of my social media pages, but for the most part I haven't really said anything to the majority of my YouTube followers. So yeah, I'm getting a new pet soon, and stay tuned for that. It's a little bit different. It's a pet I've never had before, so I'm very excited. Anyway, I love you guys. I will talk to you soon, and until next time, so long, stay strong, stay true, and be you.